Welcome to the world of horror, Inspire Saga. Simran's breathing was heavy, and she was trembling badly. Her hair was disheveled, and as she stood in front of the mirror, she tried to tie them back. But she was too nervous to do anything properly. That night, for the first time, she regretted her habit of staying awake late. She felt like someone was still following her. It all started when Simran and Anaya, both students of a prestigious boarding school, stayed together in the hostel. The school was known for its excellent academics, but the girls' hostel had a terrifying history. 5 years ago, a bright and innocent 10th grade girl had died mysteriously on the hostel's 5th floor. No one could understand how she had died. She had no history of depression or academic pressure. At first, people thought it was a murder, but the police never found any evidence, and the case was closed. Over time, rumors spread that the girl's spirit still roamed the 5th floor. Because of this, the school authorities sealed off the floor, allowing entry only once a week for cleaning. The night of fear begins. 5 years later, Simran and Anaya started sharing a room in the hostel. Their daily routine was fixed. Simran stayed up all night studying and only went to sleep after waking up Anaya in the morning. Anaya always wore glasses while studying and had a black thread tied around her wrist, given by her mother for protection. Like most students, they didn't believe in the ghost stories about the 5th floor, but still, no one dared to go there. June 15th, a night that changed everything. As usual, at 12 a.m., Simran was studying while Anaya was asleep. Suddenly, Simran felt extremely thirsty. She got up and went to the common hall to make coffee. The entire hostel was silent. Most of the girls were either in their rooms or asleep. Apart from the low humming of the coffee machine, there was no other sound. But as soon as she turned the machine off, complete silence took over. When Simran turned around with her coffee mug, her hands trembled, and the coffee spilled slightly. Anaya was standing right behind her. Something was wrong. Anaya wasn't wearing her glasses, and the black thread was missing from her wrist. Confused, Simran asked, "Why are you awake so early?" Anaya responded in a cold voice, "Why don't we go to the 5th floor balcony?" The fearful 5th floor. Simran's eyes widened in shock. Before she could react, Anaya grabbed her hand and started pulling her towards the stairs. As they climbed the stairs, Simran noticed something strange. Only her own footsteps echoed in the empty hall. Anaya's footsteps made no sound. The 5th floor door was mysteriously open, and both of them stepped inside. The air was freezing cold. The windows rattled slightly as the wind howled through the dimly lit hallway. Suddenly, Simran's eyes fell on a wall. It had deep scratch marks, forming a single phrase. June 15th. Anaya walked quietly to the balcony, gazing down at the ground below. She had been eerily silent for a long time. Simran shivered in the cold and said, "Let's go back to our room." But Anaya did not respond. When Simran called her again, Anaya slowly turned to face her. Simran's heart almost stopped. Anaya's eyes had turned completely white. In a slow, heavy voice, Anaya whispered, "Jump." Simran was horrified. Why was Anaya asking her to jump? Her body turned cold as fear gripped her. Second by second, Anaya's voice grew heavier, and she kept repeating, "Jump. Jump." Simran felt paralyzed. Her eyes started closing on their own, and she absent-mindedly began untying her hair. The loose strands started floating in the air as if they were underwater. She was slipping into a trance. It felt like if she didn't jump, Anaya would push her off the balcony. Just then, a loud thud echoed from the floor below. Simran snapped out of the trance. Gathering all her strength, she shoved Anaya away and ran downstairs. As she sprinted down the hallway, a horrifying shriek rang out from behind her. But she didn't dare look back. She rushed into her room, slammed the door shut, and turned around. Anaya was still sleeping in bed, exactly as she had left her. Simran's body turned cold with terror. She shook Anaya awake. When Anaya saw Simran's pale face and red, terrified eyes, she immediately hugged her. Anaya asked, "What happened? Tell me." But Simran was too shaken to speak. That night, she washed her face in the mirror, tied her hair tightly, and forced herself to sleep. But after that night, everything changed. She stopped staying awake at night and began avoiding Anaya. Every time Anaya sat down to study at night, she felt someone watching her, and every time she turned to check, she would find Simran staring at her, unblinking. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, Anaya confronted Simran. Trembling, Simran told her everything about that terrifying night. After hearing the entire story, Anaya's mind started racing. She knew that 5 years ago, on December 10th, a girl had died mysteriously on the 5th floor. The stories and rumors they had heard all this time were true. The ghost of that girl was still there. From that day forward, Simran and Anaya never spoke about the 5th floor again. But even today, they can't forget that night of pure horror. If you liked this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Inspire Saga, for more terrifying tales. Fearful Face Kitchen Knife.